Travel nurses across America. Some days, as a travel nurse, I just can't get that energy to step out. And I'm expected to do everything. I have to perform like I walk into the hospital. I have to walk in like I've been there for years. It's very hard at times when you walk into the hospital and they don't have supplies. I used to bring a lot of stuff, the pulse ox, the temperature gauge, the blood pressure machine, and so forth, to get my job done the right way for my patient. And even though I did the right thing, I feel like sometimes welcome back. I'm Patrice M. Foster. Thank you for coming by. I wanted to say to you nurses, don't ever get relaxed. Just be careful. Travel nurse across America, you can't get relaxed. You're going into facility not knowing what you're up against, but you have to arm yourself. And I'm saying that because I'm hearing, and some of these cases are old, it's just coming up. The nurse in Tennessee, she got off. She lost her license. A lot of people don't understand the effect that it affect the family. It affect the nurse because she no longer can work in that position again. Her license may be revoked. And it affect the future nurse. And then there's another one I just heard about. Believe it or not, Redonda Vaughn and Christiann Gainey, similar case, both tragedy, both nurse lose their license, and their family member for these who had contact with these two nurses lose their loved one. It's more for Christiann Gainey. A lot of people is saying it's because the elites Trump connection, they're using that as she's an example. I'm just putting it out there. Let's get back into it. So I was watching The Wealthy Nurse, and he was talking about Christiann Gainey. What caught my attention when he was saying night shift in the nursing home, because he does a lot of nursing home. I don't know where he worked, but obviously he has never worked in Care Pavilion, Willow Terrace, Immaculate Mary, New Cortland, Germantown, Paul's Run, St. Ignatius, Philadelphia. All these are Philadelphia. Cheltenham Nursing Home, St. John Newman and English House, and yes, Cathedral Village, where I used to work. So we're going to get it. Don't say night shift is so sweet that they get their medicine and they go to bed. Believe me, I have been in nursing home, and back in the days, Care Pavilion, we got 60. The pills that they were getting at night was equivalent to day shift amount. So no, night shift is not sleeping in the nursing home. The nurse may be sleeping. You didn't hear from me. But I'm saying these patients get heavy meds. So, no, it's not. Once you give this, they chill. That's what the wealthy nurse said. Maybe in his part of the town, you know what I mean. So that caught my attention. So back in the days, and I'm talking about 86, 89, in Philadelphia, up until the 90s, we were getting 60 patients. I was an LPN then, in 86. 60 patients on one side, 60 on the other. And they had IVs, and we were giving blood. We had tube feeding. We had trachs, real trachs. And we don't have a treatment nurse. We don't have a respiratory therapist. So the LTAC was in the nursing home. Then, towards the end of the 90s, it became half, maybe 30 and 30, or in this case, 39 for one LPN. So, yeah, I'm not discounting that having that load that you should neglect your job. So don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, before you say it out, the nursing home is not no joke. It's hard work, and it's daytime, nighttime, 3 to 11. If you work 8 hours, back in the days, it was only 8 hours. And most of the time, we're on night shift or 3 to 11. You rarely get day shift because all the Caucasian nurses have to take their kids to school. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, so I wanted to come out and talk about this. Talk about the effect that we are seeing. The other day I read and I watched it on YouTube, a Texas nurse taking up on himself, allegedly injecting air in these patients' tube, I think. Then you have the jail nurse that is going to jail too because of an incident. And now you have Christiann Gainey from Philadelphia. This is close to me because I worked at Cathedral Village nursing home. And let me tell you about Cathedral Village. Cathedral Village in Roxbury sits on a hill, beautiful grounds. The type of patient, if you watch my other videos, I talk about those patients. They are pianists, they're famous, they have money, they're old money, wealth. And what happened they have the assisted living side, meaning they have their cars, their apartment, because it's very elegant. The nurse and the RN don't work over there. I think they have assistants that work in the assisted living facility. And then if they get sick, then based on their contract, they come into the nursing home, which is still on the ground. So some of the patient may come in, maybe they fall at home or in their apartment on grounds, and they need a little rehab get them back on walking and everything. And they can go back to their apartment or go back to their physical home. So you get the idea. It's money. It's rich. It's money. So when I heard about Christiann Gainey, and she worked for General Health Resource. I worked for General Health Resource too. General Health Resource was a small agency when I started, the lowest payer. So you use them. They had most of their assignment because they were lowballing. They grow now because now I'm seeing them traveling nurses in Georgia, traveling nurses in New York. I'm seeing them everywhere when I look in Indeed. So they have grown from King of Prussia to Philadelphia to Maryland. I'm seeing them in DC. I'm seeing them all over. So I know when I was having problems when I first got here, I would go back home to Philadelphia and work for General Health Resource. And they would send me, I would tell them, just send me to Temple, send me into the hospital. But most of their assignment was nursing home. And yes, when I go in as an RN in the nursing home, sometimes they want you as supervisor, sometimes you just a regular nurse doing the LPN. You and the LPN on the same floor, working as a regular nurse. No problems with me. I was an LPN, so I can do it. I can give those meds to, if I can give 300 plus medication at night to inmates, I can definitely do 60 and 30, possible 39 too. So one of the things that stand out to me about Cathedral Village, that it was so elegant that before Med Pass, you had to give them their wine, their liquor, so they could, they have a little social. And actually, some expensive wine they used to give them. I don't know if they still do it then. And then they would give you meds and everything. So it's really an elegant place. So yeah, people like the Trumps, connection to the Trump would be at that facility. It wouldn't be at the care pavilion. They wouldn't be at the Philadelphia nursing home. That's in the inner city. Anyway, so one of the biggest thing is, and I understand how the family feel, because if it was my family, I would feel the same way. We have to acknowledge that. We have to acknowledge the mistakes. In those facilities, if you're a travel nurse, you kind of know what you're getting into. When you go into those, I'm not sure, I didn't know, I wouldn't know they have cameras watching. She probably didn't know, but the fact that she didn't do what she was supposed to do, I'm going to get into it. When I say save your license, nurses, I mean save your license. When you enter, especially when you're a travel nurse, when you enter a facility, you act like a nurse and you do what a nurse do. With a patient, even when you're unstaffed, any patient, and I understand that you may forget it, but don't fib it. Don't falsify any document. There's a rule in nursing. If it's not documented, it's not given. And you need to remember that. If it's not documented, it's not given. So apparently the patient fell. It's an incident that no one saw. That's okay. Those things happen. So in a situation like that, someone came to me, a CNA, and said, Patrice, Mr. John fell. I would just shut the med cart down and go assess. First of all, I have a problem and I will voice it if you call me and tell me the patient fell and you pick up the patient. No, CNA. No, nurse. I want you to leave that patient down there. Yes, so that I could assess to see if there is any broken bones, how the patient is, because I have to document those things. And you might move the patient and cause him to have further damage. So you said, Mr. John came and he fell out the chair or he was in his room. I don't know the scenario. I'm just going a little bit of what I read. So much so that they could see that, I guess the light broke or something. So it seemed like it was hard. and he possibly hit his head. I don't care if he hit his head and he's talking or he's laughing with you. You need to immediately stop what you're doing, assess the patient, help him up with another assistant, because you're going to document, and I'll tell you what to say. Call the doctor. Don't wait. Call the doctor. He said, okay, 15 minutes. You got the patient in bed or got him in a chair. You bring him out, because that's norm. They bring him in front of the nurse's station. That's if there's going to be someone at the nurse's station that's always there. Don't leave the patient at the nurse's station by himself in a wheelchair. That is not acceptable, because he could fall again. And you call the doctor. Said, Doctor, I think Mr. John, he hit his head. He's alert. His pupils are equal. He doesn't seem like his range of motion is okay. He's not complaining of any pain, but you stress that he hit his head. Do you want me to send him out? Oh, no. He's sleeping. So he said, no, just do a newer check and call me back. You waiting on the doctor to call you back. It's 2 a.m. Doctor didn't call you back. You go back every 15 minutes for an hour. You checked his pupils. You check to see. Then they're going to look, when was the last time the patient made it to the bathroom? The CNA check. Was the patient wet? You check him for that. Because you're going to write all that in your nursing note. And let me back up. Sorry. Never say in your notes, you found the patient. Say, observe. Use those words. Lawyer. Another thing is, usually in the hospital or the nursing home, the note that you wrote, or if it was in the computer, they have a special section for incident only. This goes to the risk managers and they look it over. I'm not sure where it end up, or do they keep it? Because they always tell us, don't write it in the nurse's note. When back in the days we used to have paper charting, they said, don't write it in the nurse's note. You write it on an incident report. They have a special form for that. Now in the hospital, in Epic, they have a section for incident reports. So you would go in there and document. So make sure you document the time that you observe the patient on the floor, the position the patient was in. Was the patient talking? Was the patient pee all over the floor? Was the patient without shoes? It could have slipped and fall. Where was the commode to the patient? If there was a commode in the room. Was the walker there? All those things you document, because everything is going to come into play in your life and you're going to regret. So take a moment. Mr. John in the next room going to have to wait on his medication, and just document. That way it's fresh in your mind, everything that you saw. Sometime you don't have to say you observe. You did not observe. I don't think the CNA observed. So you said she called you to the room, right? Call to the room because she apparently she saw what happened, or maybe the CNA observed. The CNA has to write the incident report. If the CNA call you to the room, what you can say, can you start the incident report? She has to say share what she did, what she came in, and what she saw, the same thing. Most of the time they'll ask you what to say and you help them, because you are going in. As soon as they say it, you go in and assess the patient, so you can write up. So you document. Make sure you make a copy for yourself as a protocol, so that when this come back to haunt you 6 months from now, being a travel nurse, you have those kind of documentation. Only if you think there's going to be a situation that you're going to need. But usually, if it's in the computer and you did it, you give the meds or any kind of error, it's in there. Or paper. If it's paper and they normally use computer, then you keep your documentation. What this nurse did, Christiann Gainey, she did not monitor Q15. And apparently they're saying that she said she did it. And it's easy to do. You may say, 15 minutes before 15. That's like going around and opening doors on the psych facility to make sure the patient is alive, make sure they're okay, they're not cutting in there. Thing happen, you get the fall for it. So I'm just going to say that it was sad what happened, but I want you to be careful, nurse. I'm even careful. When we enter those facilities, it's like you feel it's a little uncomfortable at first, but you always have to think what to do in this situation to keep safe. Your license